Hey, good morning. This is Kevin Murray from the Utah FOP with Brent Jex. We're just wrapping up Leadership Matters out here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's been a great training.
You know, it usually is. I love this training and everything, especially on the hills of wellness. And I like this one because it reinvigorates. I like seeing the new lodge officers that haven't been out before, and they kind of see how the FOP functions on that grand scale, and learning a lot of tools. And it's not just lodge stuff. I mean, it's stuff that they can incorporate in leadership in their agencies. You know, if they want to promote or things like that. I mean, it teaches a really good skill set. A lot of good instructors.
Well, the great thing that I like coming to these big conferences is it reminds you that you're not alone in your lodge. I mean, it doesn't matter if your lodge is 30 people. It doesn't matter if it's 300, or in cases of back east, 20,000. It doesn't matter. Like, we are all bigger than our lodge, and when you come to these bigger conferences, you see that we have the strength in numbers, and everybody's brother. Just like I'm at church, but hey brother, hey brother, hey brother, and I love it. It's great, and not a single one of these guys wouldn't go out of their way to help you out with what you need. I love it.
Well, and that's where we, in 2005, we were in New Orleans, and we got our first sense of that brotherhood, and we had a kind of a little bit of a labor issue going on with our city and taking contribution money. And we were discussing it. We were just having a little local lodge meeting in the lobby of the hotel, and behind us, a couple of guys said, "Hey, what do you got going on?" We're like, "Oh, we're just, we just have this little issue with our city manager and things." And he goes, "You tell us when to show up." I'm like, "No, man, we're in West Jordan, Utah. I mean, we're just," and he goes, "We don't care." And they were a bunch of guys from Baltimore, and they would have got on a plane, and if we wanted them to, whatever we wanted them to do, they were serious. And I remember looking at that and going, okay, this organization's bigger, not just in size of numbers, but just in what everybody's willing to do for each other.
Yeah, I've heard that once or twice this week of, hey, it doesn't matter. We'll come out. We'll talk to your guys, your lodge, your city, whatever you need help with, we're there. We'll come, and it's not going to cost your lodge anything. And it's been great to hear those sort of things.
Yeah.
So what's been your favorite? Obviously, for those of you who haven't been, there's a lot of breakout classes, and there's main classes, and then there's breakout classes that you get to choose what caters to what you feel like you need. What's been your favorite class that you've attended?
I think the keynote from Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman.
Yeah.
I love his message. I love everything that he got. I grabbed a couple of his books, the On Spiritual Combat and Spiritual Assault, and then the National Chaplain Rick Snyder. I really enjoyed his class. Everything that we go through, I love how it dovetails into the wellness, the wellness part, and how he brings it back around in that critical need. We talk a lot about that component that we're missing in why our bad numbers still aren't going down. Our divorce rates are still sky high. Our suicide rates are still sky high, despite everything that we're doing. And I believe that missing element is that spiritual leg. Whatever your beliefs are, it's tapping into that spiritual side and making sure that that's as strong as the tactical side and the case law, everything like that. I think once we embrace that side, and that's what I love about Rick's message, is that once we tap into that, that's what I believe is going to make those bad numbers go down.
The thing that in Rick's class that really hit me was, we do all this training of when, what to do if somebody pulls a gun on you, or, if you're in a fight, or training for legal, what to do in a DV or whatever. But when the bad happens and you're left with a stable scene, and you're there at the hospital with a family, or you're there with your brothers, or if you're a supervisor, you're there with your subordinates. What do you do? What do you say? And if you're not prepared to be able to step in as a leader, whether that's a peer leader or you've got the actual title, you don't want to be left in a vacuum at that point. And the story that he shared, where he was at a spot where, he had to do a lineup after the day after this event where one of his officers had been shot. And he talked about how he didn't know God. And obviously everybody's got their own scale of beliefs or what is important to them in that matter. But he said, you'd better have an answer. And you don't want to be left there standing without an answer. And so that led him into his path of going and being a chaplain for the FOP, which I thought was a great story. And I've thought about my own situations that I've been in where I've been standing at a hospital or standing with a spouse and you don't have anything to say. It's a lonely feeling and it's a helpless feeling. And it's driven me from my own experiences to have some faith building in my own life. That's been a big thing for me. And when he spoke to that really hit home for me.
As he was talking about that, I thought about, I've had the unfortunate experience to be present for a lot of those hospital meetings. And I've seen reactions that I like. I've seen reactions that I don't. Probably one of the best reactions that I had was that I saw and that I was privileged to be a part of was when Provo lost Joe Shinners. Mm-hmm. And I watched their chief at the time, Rich Ferguson, and Rich and I go back decades. We worked task force together, and watching him gather the entire department in that area of Utah Valley Hospital and answer what questions he could. He didn't go radio silent. He didn't say, he didn't sidebar, him and his command staff and just leave these nuggets. It was an open forum. And he ended up with a prayer, which I thought, and I don't want to out Rich or anything, but he's not a particularly religious guy. And that moment was a huge step for that agency. Yeah. And for the men and women of Provo. And it was, and there were a lot of Orem guys there too. And Rich doing that kind of opened up that permission door, for other chiefs since Joe to realize that it's okay, and it's not a bleed over of church and state. It's in a crisis moment where Rich saw what the need was. Yeah. And he filled it. And I know that it was outside of his comfort zone. And sure. I've talked to him many times about that night. But there was something inside him that he knew that that's what needed to happen that night. And so I think moments like that and Rich's story or Rick's story, it realized that, like you said, everybody's got their own belief system, and which is great. It's kind of like with the legal plan. We're like, if you don't have, we can talk and debate about whose legal plan is better or anything like that.
As long as you got one.
But yeah, just get covered. And it's the same thing on the spiritual side. Whatever religion or any religion, whatever, just tether yourself, and because we need it. That's what we fight for in this profession.
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, and this is the thing that we need to realize when we get into those positions where we are afraid of the separation of church and state or afraid of admitting that we do have religious ideals or beliefs. Our country was founded specifically on freedom from religious persecution. And yes, God is named, and he's named on our money, but that's not a specific deity that is all-inclusive. It could be Allah, it could be Jehovah, it could be whatever your personal beliefs are. Have something, and if you don't have something, then do some self-reflection and find out, what you want to do, and what you're going to lean on in those times. So I think that was a very impressionable class for me. Another one that was big on the leadership side of things was political. It was taught by Mark Nelson, the Oklahoma City and Oklahoma State president, and he's a very, very connected man.
Yes, he is.
And dresses like he's a very connected man. He always impresses me at how well he's dressed. But he spoke about politics and how, with politics, they happen regardless. And you can either you can be there at the table or you be there on the menu. And we have certainly seen how that can happen in Utah. And thankfully, we've got a long tradition of being at the table rather than being at the menu. And sometimes, you are at the table and you are on the menu. So, and we've currently experienced that. But it was great to be able to be in that meeting, and they asked some specific Utah questions in there. And there was a lot of local lodges in there that don't participate in politics. And it was good to see how eye-opening it was for them to see how you can take a bad situation and make it a little bit better. It never comes out great, but it makes it a little bit better.
Yeah. It's been a great week, like it always is. And this is actually the last year that it's going to be in Nashville. The growth of it has caused it to be moved to Vegas starting next year.
Yeah.
So
it's a good and bad thing.
It's a good and bad thing. I mean, if you like Vegas, it's a good thing. If you for the success of the programs, it's a really good thing. That this venue, it's a great venue. It's just not big enough anymore.
Yeah. Well, and this is our final day today, and so with this conference coming closer to us in Utah, we will do our best to see if we can find some avenues to get more members out to it, or at least get it advertised and make a way for local lodges to be there. But in conclusion, it has been a great week and very beneficial, and we look forward to coming back with some of the principles that we've learned and bringing it and implementing it in the state of Utah.
Yep. And I think we got to get you to the airport, and I'm going to a hockey game.
Yeah,
so,
well, one of them is going to be more entertaining than the other.
Yeah. Okay, we're out.